Alright, so, you know when you sit down to record a video and you think that you've got everything set and down pat, and then you bump the camera and you don't realize you bumped it, so the camera's not actually looking exactly where it's supposed to, and you've just cut your head off for the entire video? I mean, you haven't cut your head off, but your head is no longer in frame. Well, look. Oh my god! There is a dead-ass insect on my box. Do you see that? And it was in the mailer bag. I'm not sure if you're seeing that. Is it dead? Yeah, it's dead. It's a little beetle. Uh-oh, where'd it go? Ew! Yeah, that's a thing that happened. I suck. Here, allow me to offer you the consolation prize of I'm gonna pull a rabbit out of my hat. This is why I don't have any friends. Anywho, so having previously, earlier on today, having recorded and opened up the Leonardo figure and the shredder, I could tell you all about it now. As usual, the figures come in a window box. It's covered by a sleeve. Leonardo's is green. It's got a sewer lid with his face on it. The back has the TMNT logo, and the top has the Ultimates logo. When you pull off the sheath, you can see the window box and all of the magnificent Super7 TMNT goodness on the inside. Now is the time when I put everything in front of me so that you can see it, so I better move Shredder and Krang over. And as you can see, through the magic of editing, splayed out in front of you and before me, we have Leonardo with all of the fantastic accessories that he comes with. A slice of pizza, a closed communicator, an open communicator, this thing, and also this thing. I'm sorry, I don't know what any of these things are called. I could look it up, but my computer's over there, and I'm recording this on my phone, so they're all just going to be called this thing. Oh no! I put Shredder's hands in the video! Darn it! He doesn't come with Shredder's hands. He comes with his own hands. He comes with an array of hands that have been designed for holding on to various accessories that he comes with, and also closed fists for ninja decking people in the head. He also comes with a classic looking TMNT style weapons rack, 2 shuriken, and a secondary head. In the video, currently I have the secondary head on the body. It's a more comic-esque version of the head. It's the one that I prefer. But come on, we gotta show some love to how well Super7 captured that classic look with the head that actually came on the body. Now the figure itself, Super7 has done a fantastic job just recreating but updating that classic Leonardo look. The colors are spot on. I love the green tone that they've used for him, and there's actually some darker shading on the figure. And his toenails and fingernails have been painted a lighter shade of green, so they've really tried to bring out that classic look while also doing something completely new here. The level of detail in this Leonardo figure is really quite something special. The front of his shell has some battle nicks, and there's some texturing for the front, and the back of the shell looks just downright amazing. I really was impressed with Raphael, and I'm as equally as impressed with Leonardo. Leonardo's katana blades fit really, really nicely into his sword gripping hands, so there's absolutely no problem there, and they look really cool. I love the look of these katana blades. Now Super7 knows exactly what they're doing for capturing that vintage classic TMNT look with this line of figures, because with a direct comparison with the original Playmates Leonardo, you can see that every single detail point has been hit, and then some, and then some. It's fantastic that they're paying this kind of service to those of us who are adult collectors, because it's evident that they themselves are fans of the franchises that we grew up on and loved so much. I mean, aside from the fact that the price is definitely going to be obstructive for youth to get in on these, a lot of kids aren't going to pay the same price that we would for a nostalgic adult-friendly collector item. Not only that, but it's the properties. We know that they've got the Thundercats license, and they're producing that fantastic Thunder Tank, which is oh my god awesome. And we know they have the TMNT license because we're reviewing figures from them. But also, there's the Power Rangers that they now have in their grasp, and also the Silverhawks. most notably the Silverhawks. I know a lot of us fans were waiting a long time for someone to pick up the mantle of the Silverhawks, and Super7's done it. So clearly these are figures by fans, for fans. Now if you're wondering about this Leonardo, how he compares to others, well here's just a lineup of other Leonardo figures with this one. I may have used 2 pictures. I haven't taken the photographs yet. I'm sure that those of you who are adult collectors will know exactly what each Leonardo is from because you've probably got them all too. I think he makes a fine addition to my army of Leos. Now as for this Leonardo's articulation, I'm going to have the same feelings towards it that I did with Raph, in that he's much more articulated than the original. However, there are definitely a few points that those of you who are into action figure photography may have a few qualms with. Let's get into it. Leo's head sculpt obviously is on a ball peg. It has to be because you can pop it off and you can put on the other one so we can see exactly what he's got. Articulation in and above the neck. Not super usable as far as how far it can articulate, but it's there. And then for the arms, he has those rounded hinges in the armpits. Both of the arms actually can go up and he can do a 90-degree T-arm pose. If you want him to go any further, you got to rotate the arms up, which I think we would all be expecting anyway. He has bicep swivels that can go around 360. And the first contentious point that some may feel, even I kind of wished he had more here, is in the elbow. It doesn't even do 90 degrees, and I really would have liked my ninja figure here to have at least 90 degrees. You know me if you watch my channel. I won't complain that much if it doesn't have double jointed elbows, if at least it can do 90 degrees and rotate. Well, this one does rotate at the elbow, but doesn't do 90 degrees. And then of course you've got your swivelly hinge peg wrist. Obviously nothing really to speak of in the torso because he's got that big shell. However, he does have a tornado waist that can spin around 360. Can it? No, it can't because the legs get in the way. In theory, it's supposed to spin around 360, but you know, the shell and the legs, they're clearly having a confrontation here. There is some kind of bibbly-bobbly motion as well in the torso. It's not just round and round, so there is a little bit of back and forth. And then below the belt, for Leo's groin, we see the rounded hinges, and then there's also some articulation that's supposed to be kind of like a thigh cut. It's just right up here at the ball joint that gives it some roundy round motion. He's got the next contentious point, which is the single jointed knee. Now the knee pad does kind of get in the way of the articulation point, but even if the knee pad wasn't there, you're still only getting a single jointed knee on a ninja figure. And I know that there are going to be people that say, I kind of feel like a ninja should have more articulation. I should know because I'm one of those people. The knees do spin around though, so they're not just one direction back and forth. They do rotate. And then of course he's got the hinged rounded ankle pivot hinges. So there is a lot of articulation in the feet, but there definitely could be more in the knees and the elbows of this figure. I'll forgive the lack of articulation in the torso because I really don't want the look of the figure to be broken up. I will be the first to say that there are times when less articulation might be a bit better. I mean, there is that articulation point right across the chest here from this Playmates cartoon series Leo, and I've never liked that articulation line. I would have rather just had a solid shell. So again, I'm glad they didn't choose to make that articulation point with these figures. However, these guys here did manage to get double jointed knees and double jointed elbows. I mean, they've also got hand articulation, you know, and like each finger is individually articulated, including the thumb. I feel like that's probably a bit too much, but you get the point here. This company gave them double jointed knees. Why didn't Super7? I'm just curious. I'm not calling them out. I'm just curious. All right, and let's move all of Leonardo's stuff off to the side and focus on the Shredder. The Shredder. Now, Shredder's box art was actually themed purple as opposed to the green that Leonardo's was. You got the sewer lid with Shredder's face, TMNT logo on the back, Ultimates on the top. peeling off the sheathing. There's the window box for Shredder and all the good stuff that comes on the inside. But of course, we want to see what Shredder looks like outside of the package and everything that he comes with up close. So here it is, depackaged for our viewing pleasure. Shredder comes with a weapons rack, a purple rubber cloak that's interchangeable with the soft goods cloak that he comes packaged with, and it's wired, might I add. He comes with a wired cloak. That's kind of cool. Also, a secondary head, which is certainly a lot more reminiscent of the original release of the Playmate Shredder, because there's a big difference between the initial head sculpt that comes on this Shredder figure, which is, that looks fantastic actually. That's painted really well. I really like that. And the more reminiscent of the classic head sculpt. Well, it's the same sculpt, but it's been painted a little bit different in a kind of a wonky way, but at least it's accurate to the original in that there's actually flesh tone on the top of the helmet, like with the original, and the eyebrows have been painted onto the top of the helmet as well. Although, with the original, I might point out that his eyebrows were actually sculpted onto the front of his helmet, which is so weird. And like Leonardo, Shredder comes with an array of other hands, and 2 shuriken, as well as this thing, and this thing. Now, I gotta tell you, I am super impressed with this Shredder figure. I really feel like they've, just like with Leonardo, managed to capture that old school Playmates TMNT feel with this figure, but definitely updated it in a way that is 100% better than the original. The original one was so pre-posed. If I'm being honest, when I was playing with my Turtles figures, I really didn't reach for Shredder that often. He was usually kind of off in the distance, just standing there overseeing everything. And I have my Turtles figures interacting with Bebop and Rocksteady and all the rest of the villains in the line. Because getting this Shredder figure to properly stand up was a bit of a hassle once the ball joints in his groin got loose. And he was just an awkward looking figure in general. With the Super7 figure, they've definitely fixed that problem. You could just stand him up like normal, which is, as a kid, what I always wanted. But the detail on this guy is entirely reminiscent of the original, with, say, the sculpted on belt down there, and the spikes on his shins and on his wrist guards, and the purple wraps on his wrists and on his shins. Everything looks so classic, like the original. However, again, it looks 100% updated. As for Shredder's articulation, though, let's have a little peeksy doodle at it. Let's just take his cloak off while we do the articulation. That way it's not just in the way. All right, so for starters, Shredder's head is on a ball peg, and it doesn't really act super ball peggy. There's a bit of up and down and side to side, but it feels almost like it's on a regular straight up and down peg that's just a little bit loose. The shoulders being on those rounded hinges and having those spiked shoulder pauldrons, you'd think they would get in the way more, and that's really not too bad. He also has the bicep swivel and single jointed elbows that do, well, not quite 90 degrees, the same thing as Leonardo. I really wish that these ninja figures could do at least 90 degrees. It's not an entirely limiting form of articulation because they do rotate inside of that elbow joint, so there's that. And then of course you've got the rounded hinges in the wrists that go back and forth, and round. Nothing in the torso, as you can see here. However, he does have a tornado waist, but don't expect it to do much more than that because it doesn't really go forward and backwards to do anything. You're just looking at pretty much a tornado waist here, which is, I know for some of you, going to be a little bit off-putting because he is a ninja and you really want to be able to crunch your ninja figures up, and you're just not going to get that with this guy with the head and the torso. Below the belt, he's got the rounded ball joints right in there, and they do offer a really good range of articulation. And then you've got the round and round motion up here because you've got like a thigh cut at the top of the leg here, and you've got a single jointed knee that doesn't go 90 degrees. Honestly. So I would have really liked the elbows and the knees to do 90 degrees. Kind of feel like that's a bit of a oversight. Super7, if you're watching, I would say at least try to sculpt your figures so you can get a 90 degree angle on those. But again, like the elbow, it's not super limiting because You can get it to go around in a circle. He's also got articulation at the top of the boot. He's got a boot cut form of articulation. And then he has the rounded hinges with the ankle pivot when you swivel. So overall, I certainly think that he's got enough articulation for someone like myself. There are those of you out there who are articulation nuts, and you're really going to want him to have more articulation for your action figure photography. You will find that when you try to crouch him into some really good extreme ninja poses, there are going to be problems. Now, for someone like me who's just going to put these guys all together in a pre-posed kind of stance on a shelf so I can get them nostalgic feels when I walk by and happen to glance up at them, maybe take them down and fiddle with them every now and then, use them for comparisons in other videos, this isn't going to be something that's going to be a really big problem for me. If you're wondering how this Shredder figure compares to other Shredders, I don't really have that many in the house, but here he is standing with them, and there you go. There's your Shredder figure comparison. So now, what do I think about these figures? Do I feel like the Super7 Leonardo and Shredder have been a very good use of my financial resources to track down and bring into my home and add to my collection? Or do I really just kind of feel like they were a waste of time and they're overpriced, nostalgic, taking advantage of old school collectors garbage? Well, obviously I don't think the second. I've really enjoyed these, and I really like these figures. As I said in my Bebop review, I think that this Bebop figure is going to be one of my top figures of 2021. So I just think that in general, if you haven't jumped on, if you haven't got on board with what Super7 is doing with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in their Ultimates line, I feel like you're really missing out, especially if you're my age, someone who these figures have been designed to invoke all them nostalgic feels that we all get when we open up the package. Those of us who were fans of the TMNT in 88, 89, we watched the cartoon show religiously, we had all the toys. These are for us. These are a love letter to us, and they are made by fans for fans. I think that Super7 is just killing it, and I trust that they're not just making these collectibles just to make money. It's clear that when you see these folks on YouTube, you see them in their videos, they're also fans themselves. So yeah, if you see them somewhere, anywhere, not for a really huge exuberant secondary market price, I say absolutely they're worth the time and effort and funds to track these guys down and add them to your collection. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I don't really have anything else to say, so I'll see you with the next one. Bye for now.